Hey, welcome, Fargo. Hey, as I sit in front of my monitor here, I see that the temperatures, it says it's a balmy 18, but I don't feel like it's 18, James. It feels more like a brisk 0. But that's neither here nor there. We're on the downside of the winter as far as I'm concerned. You know, once you get to February, you can start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully old man winter doesn't decide to pull a fast one on us. According to Punxsutawney Phil, who is that rodent in Pennsylvania, is it? Yeah, Pennsylvania. He said there's
Yes,
six more weeks of winter. But it doesn't matter. For me, listen, man, we're on the downside of this thing. I'm okay with that, but it is what it is. You know, I always say that one of the reasons we live here is so that we can brag about how hardy we are as a people. And there are days when I realize I'm tropical. I don't know if I should be here in this climate, but you know, all things considered, I've always said Fargo is a great place to live, work, and raise kids. I'm not going to back up off that now. So this show, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but you know, as you guys know, I said that I'm going to reserve judgment on this this administration and what's going on here, and I think it's only fair to do so. And I have to start off with, most of you guys know that I'm not in favor of big government or a government intruding upon rights and freedoms that there's a lot of people that died and fight for the rights and freedoms that we have. So I'm all for reduced government. I'm all for cutting spending and reducing the budget. Okay? But I also think that the government has a responsibility to take care of all taxpayers, not just some taxpayers. Okay? And I don't know, I guess you could call me middle class, I don't know. But I know that, you know, I want some of my taxes to take care of people that are less fortunate than me, because I know that on the front end that tax might hurt, but on the back end, if these people aren't taken care of, they become more a liability than ever. And then that really becomes a problem. So that's going to be my take. That is my take. And what's more than that, I also want to talk about where are we headed in this country. You know, I mean, I look at people that I consider strong Christians who aren't acting very Christ-like in their behavior, and I'm like, wait a minute. The Bible is very clear on the way we should act and behave towards our neighbors, being that our neighbors are the people that we see every day. And I see people saying, yeah, but, you know, or making a distinction as to who should receive their love or God's love, however you want to put it. And I started thinking, you know, what would Jesus think if he came back today? What would he think about the state of the United? You know, we used to say one nation under God, and I honestly I started thinking about that, and that was something that I thought, you know what? Let's have a discussion about it. You know, so I want you guys to call in and you know, as I cover some of these topics, I want to hear, do you guys still feel like we're still a God-fearing nation? Are we still moving in the right direction? You know? Because for me, my belief system says that you got to have faith and believe in Jesus Christ. Now, I have Muslim friends, and they have their faith. I can only go on what I know. And so, for me, it's something that, regardless of what religion you are, I would like to hear. You know, where's your spirituality? And you know, we know that young people aren't going to church. You know, there are a lot of young people that are deciding for themselves whether they want to be a part of the church, or even Christians for that matter. And so, you know, I've never said this religion is better or that religion is better for one simple reason. Okay? I can only have my belief system. And I'm not going to poop on somebody else's because they don't believe what I believe. But that's the topic for this conversation. And then also, we got to talk some Super Bowl. I mean, this is the last dance for football season, and I would be remiss if I didn't give my sports fans a little talk about the Super Bowl coming up and the Vikings comings and goings. And we got to mention Black History Month, James. Although I got to tell you, I'm black every week and every month. So my history extends beyond just 1 month. I find it laughable that we do these things because everybody should be celebrated every day, you know? But, you know, give me the shortest day of the year, give me the shortest month of the year, you know, roll out a couple people with some speeches, and that's the sign that everybody cares about me and my culture. I'm not that foolish. You know, it is what it is. So anyway, I had to throw that out there to mention, yeah, it is Black History Month. I would tell you this, Dr. Fred Edwards Jr., oh, man, I wonder if he's doctor yet. Well, he is a fellow, but he's in a Bush Fellowship. But the Umoja Group, I'm sure, has something planned for Black History Month. I would say, hey, listen, check out some stuff and go be a part of it. I went to an event, the Foods of the Nation or something, over at the Yom Kippur Center. I learned an awful lot about a lot of different people, and it was a fun day. I learned some things that I didn't know. You know, I got to meet some interesting people. So, you know, that's kind of what makes us great. You know? Now, I'm not saying that China ain't great, but everybody in China is Chinese. You know? We have a veritable cornucopia of different people and different life experiences. How great is that? Anyway, that's where we're going with today's show. James, you're the sports guy in this relationship. What's your prediction for the Super Bowl? We'll get the fun stuff out of the way because I got some points I need to hit.
Somebody's gonna win, I would imagine, right?
Neither. Okay, so I got to tell you guys, I had a cousin that played for the Chiefs, and every time the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl, I have rooted for them out of familial obligation. But things have changed. No, they haven't. I hate Philadelphia for what they did to our Vikings. I will be rooting for the Chiefs. I tried to go there, but let's face it. You know, Philadelphia fans, I mean, you guys got a Super Bowl. Lighten up a little bit, you know? And they love the reputation as being rapscallions and ruffians and all that. And it's like, you know what? You got a Super Bowl. Relax. You know, you don't have to torment people when they come to your stadium. So, yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs. And if the refs have anything to say about it, I think it's going to be a close game. But much like the AFC Championship, there will be a pivotal one or two plays that steals the momentum from the Eagles. Now we got a three-peat. Mm-hmm. Now, next year when the Vikings make it to the Super Bowl and the Chiefs make it again, believe me, I'll be pulling for the Vikings. And, yeah, I said it here first. Next year is Super Bowl or bust for the Vikings as far as I'm concerned. I think they got enough of the pieces in place, but what needs to happen with the Vikings? The same thing I said last year. They need to replace a guard and a center, and they need a dominant. Now, Myles Garrett just became available. So imagine putting Myles Garrett on that defense, finding two decent offensive linemen. I think now we're on something. We're either on to something or on something. I don't know what it is, James, but that
yeah.
By the way, I stole that line from the Common Man, okay? For those of you that don't know. So that wasn't my bit, but I like the saying. So looking at the two teams now, I got to say, it scares me what Saquon Barkley is able to do for a defense.
He's a dang good ball player.
Yeah, and, you know, he reminds me a lot of Adrian Peterson in that Adrian Peterson would get 3 yards here, 4 yards here. He'd run for 55. And that was doing the Brad Childress year. Boy, I'm going way back, huh?
Yeah, those were some fun days. A lot of screaming.
Oh, man.
A lot of yelling.
It was fun to watch that offense only because here you had a juggernaut in Adrian Peterson. They knew we were going to run it. We knew we were going to run it, and they still couldn't stop that guy.
That was a lot of fun.
If Brad Childress hadn't been a dummy, Adrian Peterson would have broken Eric Dickerson's record. That still bugs me to no end. That Brad Childress. Anyway, hey, we're not going to talk about negative times. But anyway, Big Dame James says we're up against the break. So those are the topics. When I come back, we're going to hit it hard with some questions that I have about where are we at as a nation and where do we go from here. This is Jon Adams for Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000, or you can email studio@wdayradionow.com. Welcome back to Talk to the Town with Jon Adams. Big Game James on the wheels of steel. That is an awesome intro. I love it. James is up in his musical game. So, at the top of the hour, I was talking about where we headed as a nation, you know? And for me, I've said it before, okay? I can only trace my roots back to Jackson, Mississippi, Duluth, those areas because with the advent of slavery, that's basically where my history starts and ends. I don't know if it's beyond Africa. I don't know if it's the Caribbean, but I do know this. I was born here, which makes me an American, and I have some very strong views on who we should be as a nation, you know? And I've always been proud. I'm still proud to be an American. But lately, I've been asking, what type of nation are we becoming? you know? And I don't, I got to be honest with you guys, I watch very little TV now because America doesn't look like it used to look. And I'm not so sure that it looks like it does for the better. And those are questions that I think we all have to ask each other because, you know, as we walk through life, it's a very short time. And so I think to myself, are we really happy as a nation? You know, there seems to be a lot of division, and people routinely, they want to know which side are you on, you know? And it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm on the side, whatever side keeps America strong. And it's funny because the minute that you frame it that way, everybody has an opinion on what would make America strong, what would keep us united. And so I think there are some things that we need to look at first among it. And I've said it before, you know, if you don't have God first or you don't have whatever spiritual entity that you believe in, if you don't have God first, you're going to be in trouble in the first place. I'm not eliminating atheists or non-believer or agnostics. I'm just saying where I come from, you better be grounded, you know. And so that's where I'm going to start. And so I was looking at, you know, if I were an alien and I came down to Earth, would I look at the United States and say these people have a spiritualness to them? And how do we determine that? Well, in my mind, the first is how we treat people in society. And I always go to the premise that how a society treats old people and babies and people that need help. It's a good indicator of what type of nation you are when you treat these people well. Okay? And so in my culture, we don't shut our old people in. You know? We don't put them someplace and there they are to live out the rest of their days. Typically, we want them as close to us for as long as possible. Now, we recognize that sometimes that's not possible, and I get that. But even then, we're involved with them. We just don't leave them in places. We involve them in our day-to-day. And so, you know, I look around and I see a lot more people saying, well, you know, it is what it is and it's tragic, you know. People that have less than us. We used to be about uplifting people. And lately, I've been hearing everything but that. And so it begs the question, you know, what type of nation are we? You know, are we moving in the direction that we should be? And a lot of people want to point to the government, you know, but I espouse to the theory that you have to take care of your own little corner of the world. So for me, that means the people that I see every day, you know. And if you fancy yourself a good person, this is probably, it's probably rudimentary on its face. It's not something that you even think about, but I think we should talk about it. As you guys know, I'm at Davies. Shout out Davies. Shout out to the Godfather. Oh, I better mention this. So, on another line, and I got to get this out before my ADD kicks in and I forget it. So, Dr. Troy Cody is the principal of Davies High, and I referred to him as the Godfather. And some people want to know exactly what that means. And so I've been there for about 3 months, 2 months, month and a half, whatever it is. But here's what I know. Dr. Cody and the majority of the staff that work at Davies treat your children like they are their babies, like they are their family, like they're godparents. And you guys, for you guys that don't know, godparents are the people that look after your family if something should happen to mom and dad. And so with that, that's why I call Troy the Godfather, because he oversees it all. And you see his passion for these kids, as well as, you know, I've said it before, Davies has a synergy to it. I've worked in other high schools, but it has a synergy to it that works toward positivity, you know, that works toward trying to do it right to get your kids an education, to get them a worthwhile high school experience. And so I wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, I digress. So I get to talk to our students about what do they think about politics. We talk about it all. Sometimes they bring it up. Sometimes I ask them, hey, what do you think about this? But it's dialogue, and it's very interesting. Some of our students are fearful about the future because some of them want to go to college, and they're wondering what does the federal rollback look like in terms of financial aid. You know, others are worried about, hey, you know, if I get a job, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford a house. They talk a lot about old guys like me being able to. We basically were able to live the American dream, and some of them say, I don't think that the American dream exists for us. And it's interesting because these are teenagers that I'm having these conversations with. Now, I reassure them of two things. The United States will go on, okay? And I think there are enough people in this country that are good people that will see that we won't fall to ruin. You know? And then I also think that God has a hand in everything. So, you know, I think that we've been through way worse than what we're seeing now. We just got to pay attention. One of the big concerns I have is I don't hear enough voices. You know? Now, I noticed this weekend there were marches against what's happening with immigration. But we need to also, I'm going to get to the DEI piece because one thing that's germane to that is veterans. Okay, I have a thing for we should take care of people that fought and served our nation. And with the cancellation of all federal DEI programs, Veterans Affairs falls under that. And so in my head, I want to know what does that mean exactly for our veterans? How are we going to meet their needs? Nobody, I haven't seen any plan. Now, like I said before, President Trump has a lot of ideas and a lot of executive orders he signed. But for me, I feel more comfortable if we had an idea of what first of all, if we're saving all this money, pay attention. If we're saving all this money, where is it going to end up? Okay? So we cut DEI programs, and they say that it was $1.2 billion that they're saving. Where's that money going to end up? We're reducing the debt. Are we going to spend it someplace else? Is that 1.2 going to go to build a wall? Is it going to be used to get illegal immigrants out of the country? These are questions that we need to ask. Now, for me, honestly, I think the government has enough money. What we need to do is figure out how to get them to spend it more wisely. If our goal is to get out of the Ukraine, we're not spending that $800 million or whatever it is. Where is that money going to go? What's the plan? I know this. You give politicians give them money without a plan, they'll find a way to spend it. They'll find a way to use it. We as a nation, we need to hold them accountable. And it's funny because during the Biden administration, I was dead on accountability. There were a lot of things that I didn't like about the Biden administration, okay? I haven't said one word about what I don't like about this administration because we're not into it long enough. We're not into it deep enough. And I said it before, I'm all for limiting government, so this guy is doing that, so I got to kind of be quiet and see how this plays out, but I do know this. Let's start seeing some plans that make sense. Let's hold our leaders accountable. That's what needs to happen. I mean, look, man, I'm tired of government waste. I'm still trying to figure out how a junior senator who came in with a net worth of about $5,000 is now worth $5 million. these politicians go to Washington and look at what happens. On both sides of the aisle, by the way. I'm not foolish to think that one side is doing it and one side isn't. I think we need to hold both sides accountable. So with that, the next thing is who are our religious leaders of today? You know? I mean, because I got to tell you, growing up in the 60s, we had an army of reverends in the black community. Now, the funny thing is we had one minister. I'll hold that thought. Big Game James says we're up against the break, but, I'm here talking about we need to maintain our spirituality as well as we need to be a nation that's a nation not divided. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000, or you can email studio@wdaynow.com. Hey, welcome back to Talking Tom with Jon Adams. We are sitting here talking. I'm sitting here talking. You guys are sitting out there listening, which I appreciate you guys tuning in. So, this show has been about where we headed as a nation. These are all my opinions. Some of it I think is fact, but not all of it. It's all an opinion. But at the same time, I want this to be food for thought because we need to pay attention. We need to have accountability. I haven't really looked at what our city commission is up to as of late. I see that there's a plan involved to tackle the homelessness issue on a large scale, and I haven't really read through what the plan is, so I'm not going to speak on it. But I think that's moving in the right direction. That's the one thing I like about living in this state is that. We pay attention. We don't always do it right, but at least we have our fingers on the pulse of what needs to happen. I would like to see a quicker response to some of the issues that we have, but you think the wheels of justice turn slowly, the wheels of government, holy cow. But it is what it is. But anyway, let's get back to so I was talking about the religious leaders that we had back in the day. And, a lot of times when we had a national tragedy, there were a bunch of leaders that would come out and religious leaders like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, they'd march for other people, They would hold the government accountable. And I can tell you the one person that I think of and my dad respected a great deal was the Reverend Billy Graham. I mean, he was the nation's minister. And what I liked about the guy is he talked about all people, all of God's children. And so that was something I was sad when he passed because I just like the fact that he put our spiritualness out on the national stage, on the world stage. And I was thinking to myself, where's that now? I mean, we can all identify the mega preachers with the mega churches, right? But how many of those messages that they espouse do we actually carry into our daily life? I mean, we certainly don't with T.D. Jakes. We certainly don't with the guy down in New Orleans that didn't open his mega church to people in need. So it's like, well, all right, at the top of this thing, where our spiritual advisors, where are they? And I want you to think about this. Should spiritual advisors be identifying one way or another? Now, it's funny because somebody once told me that the separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution. I don't know if it is or not. I'm not going to lie. I was a 2.2 student. That wasn't on my radar. But it's something to think about. I mean, we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance and say, under God. I can remember saying that pledge as a little kid, and there are people that I know that say I would never pledge allegiance to the flag or to this country. And I just think in my head, well, what are you here for then? I find it interesting, people that say that they're going to leave this country, they're going to do this or that, but they're steady enjoying all the freedoms that we provide. And as much as we have issues, I've been to other countries. I've seen some things, and let me tell you, even with what's going on now, we live in one of the greatest countries in the world, and my hope is, being on this radio show, that people acknowledge that and they recognize that we got work to do. And just like I say in my community, we cannot wait for the government to decide or the government to step in. The government's not coming to rescue anybody spiritually or anything else. We have to do it. The citizens have to do it. That's why I like the fact that there were people protesting. I don't like the fact that some people are sitting on their hands saying, it's not that bad. It is that bad. I mean, let's be honest. There are people that have been affected by what's going on, and now we have tariffs. We're putting tariffs on our allies. Mexico, okay, but it seems like Canada is spoiling for a fight, and most of their nation is they're hockey players, and hockey players don't mind getting in a scrum from time to time, but it's something that we as citizens need to pay attention to. I don't know enough about our trade imbalance to say we should have went with this way with Mexico and Canada. But China, absolutely. I'll give you a little history lesson. In the 70s, China was an emerging power, but they didn't have the resources to do what they needed to do. And we signed a series of treaties I forget what it's called. Anyway, we made it possible for them to sell their goods and services and raise tariffs on us, and all of this because we were interested in developing their country for our own good. And that happened. Okay? So we recognize that the way that we used to operate, it was good for everybody. It was good for our nation. But now we have to look at it again and say, now we have a trade imbalance that is to our detriment. We absolutely do. And I'm all in favor of tariffs, but we have to implement them in the right way. And that's where I think that the disconnect is because we can do it gradually. We can do it over time so that it hurts the American people less, which is what I think we should be doing. Minimize the damage. Most people don't remember that we actually had a farm subsidy buyout to the tune of $800 million, whatever it was that we gave to farmers during Trump's first administration to bail out the farmers for what we did with China. I really should have a better follow-up, but I know that it was to the detriment to a lot of people. So then we ended up giving away money. The price of eggs skyrockets. That just came up on the ticker. I just think it's funny because that's been a talking point. The price of eggs are going up. Well, guess what? With the way we're headed, everything is about to go up. Okay? So tighten your belts. This is what we voted for. Well, this is what some of us voted for. We live in a society where we get to vote for what we want. And the losers on this side could say, well, I didn't vote for it. Well, you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. So from there, we have to figure out, what do we do in these times? And for me, I think it's about accountability. And we need to have no-nonsense accountability with our leaders. It starts at the state level, it starts at the city level, and it certainly starts at the federal level. And people need to understand that it's not impossible. If enough people are affected and people take to the streets, things change. You start writing your state senator about what's going on, it changes. You go to city commission meetings, it changes. But we can't be apathetic, which is what I see happening is there's a certain amount of apathy where people are exhausted. And that comes directly from the strategy that's been employed by this administration, which is called flood the zone. It's not a new concept because they used it in the first election, in his first presidency, and that was where let's bombard the public with so much that they don't have a chance to catch their breath. Okay? And 80% of it it's just that. It's just fluff. But then behind that, there's a certain agenda that we have. And the agenda is what we're ultimately working for. So, first, what do we have to do as Americans? We have to be vigilant and know what we're looking at. We have to educate ourselves. We have to have conversations. We have to have dialogue. Because that's what it comes down to. we do those things, I think that we lessen the impact. Now, I've said it a million times. Very, very conservative, right? I am. And a lot of people say, I don't know about that. But I'm left centric, let's put it that way. Big Game James says we're up against the break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about some of the things that have happened on the national level, who's been affected, and some facts that maybe people don't know. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000, or you can email at studio WDAY Radio Now. Hey, welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I just had to let that roll a little bit because James is over on the wheels of steel doing his thing. So to wrap up this final segment, I want to throw some things out to you. So I have a lot of people out there that are clapping their hands, and they're very excited about DEI got canceled and all the DEI programs, they've been canceled, and hey, it's about time. And the most telling thing that I heard somebody say, and I believe that Elon Musk was the person that said it, that DEI promotes racism. I found that very laughable. So I want you to think about something. We started with affirmative action in 1965 to level the playing field. Now, understand that leveling the playing field, sure, it was to help minorities, but it was also to help immigrants and veterans and women and vulnerable people in the community, okay? The handicapped also, all right? So let's keep in mind, when you're clapping and posturing about the elimination of DEI, it's not about race. It's about all people. And dare I say, it's about the people that have less than. Okay? Because I can tell you that I know plenty of black people that are highly successful. Okay? I know plenty of minorities that are highly successful. I go across the board. Okay? But DEI is more of a social construct. socioeconomic construct, okay? And we're saying to people, hey, look, we want to take the people that are marginalized in our community and we want to uplift them. How can that be a bad thing? But I can tell you this much. When you start politicizing things like affirmative action and DEI, you get exactly what you're getting now, okay? And there's a sense of, I don't care. As long as they don't get it, I'm okay. Now, I've always said that, and I actually did a paper on this in college, what happens to people in affirmative action after they get hired? And in 75% of the cases, they never rise above the position in which they were hired because they are seen as unqualified. Well, that is a falsehood. And we know it's a falsehood because affirmative action and DEI says if we have two people that are of equal stature, we are going to give the DEI person the job. It doesn't say we're going to hire unqualified people. Now, if indeed we're turning to a merit-based society, somebody explained to me some of the choices for the president's cabinet. Explain to me how his children even have a seat in government if we're going on merit-based. How does a person like Linda McMahon become the Secretary of Education when I'm sure there are far more people that are far more qualified, white or black? These are questions that we have to ask. Now, for me, I feel like this. DEI was never going to fly in the first place. Okay, it wasn't a mandate that anybody took seriously. And second behind that would be affirmative action. There was no teeth to this legislation, and it just needed to play out enough where there was backlash, and guess what? We got it and it's eliminated. But people have to recognize what has been eliminated. There's one group of people that have dominated the top of the food chain for a very long time. Those people now dominate the food chain now. So if you're one of those people, and by the way, let's not forget, major universities used to have to hire so many minorities, so many immigrants. In schools, universities used to have so many minorities, so many immigrants, so many women, so many handicaps, so many veterans. All of those programs have gone away now. So understand, if you are a veteran out there or you have a handicap or a disability, the elimination of DEI and affirmative action speaks directly to you. So let's not pretend that this was about race, okay, because it was about more than that. And if I'm one of those people that would have been able to go to school and now those funds aren't available to me, I'm going to feel some type of way about it. And let's face it, socioeconomically, very few people have the money to send their kids to college. So then what happens to those people? Those are the questions that we should be asking each other. You know, housing. There's a federal program for housing. So now what? What happens to those people? You know, we've changed the landscape with what we're doing. And heaven forbid you should be one of those people that wasn't affected. The number of people that are going to be downsized over the next year, now they might go into the homeless category. They might go into the category where they need government help on the federal level. Because we know a lot of states are broke. So how are we taking care of these people? Are we creating a bigger problem rather than our government stepping up and looking that we have infrastructure, we have education needs? These are all things that we as citizens, we need to pay attention to. This is one man's opinion, but I'm saying it's much bigger than the narrow scope that they're trying to paint it as. And as we kick this can down the road and we start to see some of the effects of our tariffs and the elimination of programs, okay, the erosion of rights, remember that this is what we voted for. But as citizens, we can also turn it back. This has been Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Try to stay warm. Try to stay warm. It's cold outside. And as always, stay black and happy Black History Month. Peace.
Welcome to our 1-hour edition of Wednesday WDAY Midday. I'm Austin Erickson. Ahead, Cass County Sheriff Jesse Johnner explains the training for the sheriff's quick response team and why he feels it needs to be implemented. And Senator Kevin Cramer describes why he's concerned with Elon Musk getting access to Treasury Department information. We'll have that. We'll have sports. We'll have Dean's forecast coming up. But first, we'll take a look at the markets. The Dow is up 144 points to 44,700. The S&P 500 is up, but only by 8 points to 6,046. And the NASDAQ is down 7 points to 19,646. Gold is up $19.30 an ounce to $2,895. And oil is down $1.39 per barrel to $71.32. Now for a look at the weather with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. It's hard to describe it any way other than cold.
Yeah, it's cold. Yeah, you're right. There's no other way to skirt around that. And now that we've got the cold locked in, we're going to see snow developing as we head towards evening. And I'll tell you what, things could get kind of difficult around here as we head towards tomorrow morning. I'll let you know how much snow we're expecting. That and more coming up here in about 7 minutes.
All right, important if you have travel plans, so make sure to listen to Dean in a few minutes. Coming up, we also will have some information on a burglary in Jamestown where thousands of items were stolen. A Polk County squad car was hit, and a sexual assault bill involving students in schools in North Dakota. We'll have details next on Midday. Authorities are searching for a burglar who stole thousands of dollars of merchandise from the Jamestown Country Club Pro Shop. The burglary happened in the evening of January 29th into the morning hours of the 30th. The Stutsman County Sheriff's Office says more than 100 items, including shirts, pullovers, hats, and gloves, were taken with the Jamestown Country Club logo on them. The suspect also took 65 brand new golf clubs, more than 1,000 new balls, and 12 bottles of Apple Crown Royal whiskey. If you know anything about the suspect or the burglary, you're asked to call the Stutsman County Sheriff's Office. A car collided with the Polk County Sheriff's Office SUV in Crookston Tuesday morning. No one was hurt. It happened on Highway 75 just after 5. The driver of the vehicle and the deputy were wearing their seatbelts. Crookston Police is investigating that crash. A bill aimed to protect student sexual assault victims is moving on to the North Dakota Senate. The House voted unanimously to pass the legislation. Under the bill, a convicted student would need to follow a safety plan developed by the school district to keep them away from the victim. It also calls for the student to be expelled or transferred to keep them separated from the victim. That's your local news. Now here's your national news from ABC. We're back with a more detailed look on the forecast with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. Dean, you said snow is coming. Is it shovelable?
It is, yes, it will be. In fact, some areas might even be able to use the old snowblower with this one. And we've got some more snow heading our way for the weekend. So this is great news for our winter weather enthusiasts, snowmobilers, and anything else you want to do outdoors that needs snow, which we haven't had much at all this winter. Currently, we've got temperatures in the teens across much of the area, and we'll continue to see our clouds thicken up, and our temperature should make it up to about 18 today. Now, we will see snow developing after about 4 o'clock, coming in from the west and southwest as warm air tries to push into this cold air mass that we've got, and that will develop bands of snow for your evening commute. Now, I'm not looking at heavy snow, but at least not in the evening commute, but if you get caught under any of these specific snow bands that are or will be developing later this afternoon, you could see some reduced visibility at times for your evening commute as winds turn to the south-southeast about 10 to 20. Then overnight tonight, we'll see snow continuing, and that should last until about 2, 3 in the morning before it starts to wind down with lows near 5 above. Winds will start to turn to the northwest and pick up overnight about 10 to 25. And then the problem is going to be tomorrow morning. The snow will be done, but we are going to have some very windy conditions out of the west-northwest at 20 to 30 and gusting up to 40 at times with highs around 10 above. Now, blowing snow, reduced visibility, very slippery travel for your morning commute is expected due to the wind. Total snowfall, what we're looking at right now, looks to be about 2 to 4 inches. So again, it's not a huge storm by any means, but when you factor the wind in, then it becomes a problem. And then we'll quiet things down for Friday. Lighter winds with highs in the teens. More snow in the picture for Saturday. I'll have details on that snow event coming up here after the bottom of the hour.
All right, plenty to prepare for.
Yes, definitely.
All right, thanks, Dean. Now on to sports with Big Game James McCarty. Big news in the world of Fargo-Moorhead baseball announced. The Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks will take on the North Dakota State Bison at Newman Outdoor Field, which begs the question, who will be the home team?
Yeah, exactly. So the Bison baseball team adding an exhibition to their schedule as they will square off with the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks as that'll begin the season, quote-unquote, for the Redhawks on Wednesday, May 7th at Newman Outdoor Field. 6 p.m. is when they'll have first pitch of that one. You'll have tickets and additional information on that game released at a later date. At this point, former Bison players Peter Brookshaw and Parker Harm are currently on the Redhawks roster entering this season. NDSU will open up its 2025 season at number 21, Dallas Baptist, on Friday, February 14th. First pitch for that one slated for 3 p.m. So some excitement on the diamond. The Twins are 8 days away from their pitchers and catchers reporting, and I will be one happy camper here in a couple of weeks, especially knowing that the Twins and their streaming is, for the most part, figured out as well as we get into this season. So I'm giddy at the moment.
Yeah, and Corey Provis mentioned this. I've heard him mention this, that it'll also be on cable and satellite providers, and if you go to the Twins website, you can sign up for newsletters on that. I still haven't received anything, and that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago that I found it. Mm-hmm. But you can also, for $99.99 for the entire season, watch it through the MLB.TV app.
Which is tremendous. I get that every year anyways, to watch any game you want at any time, replays.
And no blackouts.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there's great content on there. There are a couple hours a day of daily content and whatnot. So that's always exciting. As for the you got some?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, if you're a baseball fan in certain areas, blackouts are just awful. Like if you're in Iowa, you have the Brewers, Royals, Cardinals, White Sox, and Cubs games all blacked out, and Twins.
Yeah, that's not super ideal if you're a farmer in Iowa.
Yeah, but coming up this season in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, and western Wisconsin, there will be no blackouts for this Twins.TV deal.
That's going to be tremendous for baseball fans across the upper Midwest. The Wild, they haven't scored in 2 games. They lost 3-0 last night in Boston to the Bruins. Marc-Andre Fleury did everything in his power, man. He fielded 44 shots. He saved 42 of them. The Wild even had 35 shots on net, but Jeremy Swayman would save all of them. The Wild falling to 31-19-4. They return home to the XL Energy Center Thursday night when they square off with the Carolina Hurricanes. The Timberwolves, they host the Chicago Bulls tonight. Tip-off for that matchup is scheduled for 7 p.m. The Wolves are 27 and 23. Currently 7th in the Western Conference. Top 6 seeds get out of that play-in tournament, and the NBA's trade deadline is Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time here. So we're looking at about just under 26 hours away from that deadline, and we may or may not have moves made by the Timberwolves. We'll end up finding out here in the very, very near future. Spud girls hockey were the top-ranked team in the 8AA section, and they squared off and dominated number 8-seeded Sartell 11-0 last night. They punched their ticket to the section semifinals on Saturday evening, where you will have a doubleheader, more or less, of Spud action on Saturday, where the boys will host Elk River at 2, the girls will host number 4 Alexandria at 6, and we'll have both of those calls right here on WDAY Radio with Larry Knudsen on the call with the excitement there. And tonight, Primetime Sports at 6:30, Jace Denman and I, we are joined by Fargo Force assistant coach Jackson Keene. And tonight, we're going to talk a little bit more about the scouting aspect. The Force run a 3-game road trip last weekend. Jackson was not with the team. He was out scouting in the Twin Cities and the Faribault areas for Phase 1, Phase 2 draft picks, free agents, things of those sorts. So we're going to have a little bit of a different conversation with him, but still really exciting. A good handful of minutes with him, 10, 12 minutes or so, and that'll be a fun conversation. Tune in tonight. If you can't, WDAYRadioNow.com. Click on the sports tab. It'll be up here this evening after the show wraps up.
Plenty of good things to look forward to in the sports realm. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Still to come, the Cass County Sheriff's Office creates a Sheriff's Quick Response Team. Sheriff Jesse Johnner describes how the group will work in difficult situations involving multiple areas. The Cass County Sheriff's Office has formed a Sheriff's Quick Response Team. Sheriff Jesse Johnner explained how members will be trained and deal with difficult situations with the Coffee Club.
Basically what it is people that already work at our agency, of course, spread out through different divisions, our patrol division, our civil process division, and a couple of our task force positions. And what we're looking to do with it is, and so we selected 10 people. What we're looking to do with it is to give those individuals some extra training in the way of mass casualty events, active shooters, responding to barricaded subjects, hostage rescues, and we'll do some high-risk incident planning with this team. And so the idea is that obviously our patrol deputies that are out and about have training in some of these areas already. I mean, we do yearly or every couple of years training with our staff on active shooter, room clearing, responding to critical incidents and things like that. But this group of individuals will get this training on a monthly basis, so they'll stay more up to date with current training practices and tactical procedures. And really it's just a way for us to bring a different level of preparedness to our agency. And these individuals will have not only the additional tactical training knowledge, but we'll also get them some additional safety equipment in the way of ballistic shields, some different types of body armor, some different types of weapon capabilities, and the idea behind it is that if we do have a situation that occurs, that we have people that are actively out on the street and can respond immediately to a situation like this.
Sheriff Johnner, can I ask you a question? Who does the training?
So the training, we will be doing the training in-house, some of it. Some of it
Okay.
will obviously bring different instructors in. It kind of depends on the topic, but we're really pulling from our individuals that we have assigned currently to the SWAT team that get that additional tactical knowledge. So we do have some instructors in-house
Okay.
that specialize in some of this training. And so, this is kind of an intermediate response. This doesn't take the place of Red River Valley SWAT. We still have people assigned to the SWAT team, but as you guys know, there's not enough call-outs in our area to have a full-time SWAT team. It's a part-time SWAT team. So if there is a critical incident that occurs, those individuals need to be paged out, and there's a little bit of spin-up time for them to get on scene. So we need to have some expertise in these areas from some people that can respond immediately and hopefully work through that scene, get the scene stabilized until we can get SWAT there. So that's kind of the piece that's missing. Obviously, our patrol deputies that are out, whether it's our agency, Fargo PD, West Fargo PD, all of our agencies have really good training. So I don't think that the training is missing. This is just more of a concentrated training effort to respond to these types of situations. And so one of the examples that I used yesterday when I was speaking with some of the media outlets was we had a situation down in Horace not too long ago where an individual had indicated that she may be suicidal. She had kids in the residence, and there was some mention of potentially taking the kids with her. And so if she were to commit or follow through with a suicide action, and we had deputies who responded down to the scene right away, of course, to get a containment perimeter set up and start gathering information to work through that situation. And we were trying to form up a team with our deputies that were there to potentially employ hostage rescue techniques or tactics. And that's not something that we train on a day-to-day basis. And so we did have a few people there on scene that were members of our Red River Valley SWAT team, and they were trying to do a quick tactical plan with our other deputies who didn't have that knowledge to, come up with a plan to intervene should they need to do that to protect those children. And so that really, and we were at the verge of activating Red River Valley SWAT on that one, but of course it would have taken a little bit of time to get them down there. So we just want to have our this team who's out and about every day, driving around right now doing patrol, have this little, some more expertise in the way of these situations, and in doing that, it's going to bring our whole level of preparedness at our office up to a different level, and then as these individuals get this additional training, they'll bring that back to our agency and help train our other staff. And so just all in all, it's all around, in my opinion, a good idea to excel our organization in some of these response efforts.
Well, and I think it speaks well of the department as well, Sheriff. We talk about a fair amount of the time when we have you on about training that you receive. Things are always forward thinking with your agency, and I think this says the same thing. You have the forethought with all of the things that are going on in the world today. Your New Orleans incident, your school shootings. We know there have been some of those incidents where had the response time been that much quicker, more lives potentially could have been saved, et cetera. So to have somebody that's a quick response team nearby, ready to go at a moment's notice, could potentially do that if you ever have to deal with those types of situations.
Exactly, and that's kind of the thought process behind the whole thing. Of course, the other reason that we want to get this going right now is, when summer comes, we have a number of community events out in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Red River Valley Fair, we've got Horace Bean Days, there's Kindred Days, Castleton Days, and those events are really big for our rural communities. There's a number of people that attend those. I mean, man, if you go to Horace Bean Days, that there's a ton of people down there. Same with Kindred and Castleton. And sometimes when we have a lot of people in an area like that, that brings opportunity, unfortunately, for someone if they want to hurt a lot of people. And so we want to be able to have the members from this team be able to work these events and be on scene so that we can, again, immediately respond. And the other example I gave yesterday is if we have a critical incident out in Tower City, Alice, Page, those communities that are a number of miles away from the Fargo, West Fargo area, this team would, again, immediately respond out there. They could start working through the situation, hopefully get the situation stabilized so there's, no loss of life. We can protect life, and then start setting up tactical planning and how we're going to work through that situation, hopefully de-escalate it. But if it continues to escalate, have people there immediately able to respond, intervene if necessary, but then also start setting up that tactical plan so that if we do need to call the Red River Valley SWAT team there's an efficient handoff of that tactical planning to their operators, so we can just continue with kind of a seamless effort forward to work through that situation.
Still ahead, we have the rest of the story on WDAY Radio Midday. The Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management is ready to begin the process of licensing retail cannabis businesses. The agency says it will begin accepting license applications February 18th. A lottery will be held later this year to determine who will receive the licenses. The deadline to submit an application is March 14th. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is working to curtail what he calls the dangerous impact social media and AI is having on kids across the state. A new report from his office outlines concerns including bullying and harassment on social media, graphic content, envy among peers, and more. Ellison is recommending a ban on deceptive practices he says make social media addictive, requiring aggressive privacy defaults that limit sharing data and images, limits on engagement-based optimization for algorithms, and more. One of the most unexpected topics you expect to hear at the Northern Corn and Soy Expo in Fargo, West Fargo, has to do with fires. Castleton Fire Chief John Heil says the byproduct of the soybean process is ground into soy flour, creating the product that is contained in the buckets of soy foam used to fight fires. The foam is contained on the fire trucks in 20 or 30-gallon tanks. Firefighters can manually control the amount of foam used between 1 and 6% and add it to water. The North Dakota Soybean Council is providing a complimentary 5-gallon sample of soy foam to fire departments. Now for a look at the markets, the Dow is up 175 points to 44,731. The S&P 500 is up 9 points to 6,046. The NASDAQ is down 24 points to 19,629. Gold is up $17.60 an ounce to $2,893. And oil is down $1.54 per barrel to $71.16. Now for a look at the forecast with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. Dean, you say some shovelable snow is coming our way. When could we see that in our area?
Yeah, well, we should start to see that, Austin, later this afternoon, probably around 4 o'clock or so. We'll start to see bands of snow developing, pushing in from the west and southwest. And some of those the banding of the snow, we could have some moderate snowfall at times, then it lightens up, and then we get under some moderate snow bands again. That will be going through the evening commute. So your